What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse, rational hate. So I found out why people were making so many videos talking about Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence fighting at 154. Found the source, and I'm going to listen to it for a little bit. Then I'm just going to close out with my thoughts. There's you go.
I think a lot of people are expecting, well, maybe 99% of the world are expecting Jerron to take care of business and Rashidi to take care of business. But I know you saw the back and forth up there, them getting into it.
Yeah.
Could be next, possibly, man.
I would love to see that next.
Is Rashidi the type of guy that makes you want to say, okay, he has a legitimate chance to actually beat Boots?
Absolutely, because of how fast he is and how intuitive defensively he is. You know what I mean? I would much have rather those guys sit up there and say, hey, we fight next. I can't wait to get in the ring with you. I'm gonna knock this dude out, and I'm coming to see you, opposed to barking out about what is more than likely not realistic. It's more than likely not realistic, even though he's going to get a mandatory, or he's going to be in a mandatory position. It's not realistic that Boots is going to get Errol Spence Jr. next. You know?
You don't think so?
I don't think it's realistic. I think Errol has bigger things on his mind. Not to say that that Boots is not more than likely the biggest challenge that he could have. But at the same time, I just think that what Errol is looking for is not Boots. Boots is scratching and clawing to get to Errol, but is that scratching and clawing going to get you there? I'd rather you be on stage and tell everybody what's next, because that's more realistic than be on stage and say, man, I'll dust you off, I'm ready for something else, you know? Get the people excited. You have a moment right here. We don't have what the NBA has. We don't have what the NFL has. If I wanted to right now, I could go online, look at what Cavaliers game I want to go to. I could set my whole life around going to that Cavaliers game. I don't know when Boots is going to get in the ring with Errol. But what I do know is that Boots and Rashidi said we fight next, and they said we fight next in June, it's right there.
You know, a guy in yourself who held the IBF title, I believe it's 120 days that Spence is going to have if Boots win the interim title on Saturday. So Spence is going to have about 120 days. He's supposed to come back in April, maybe against Keith Thurman, and then, you know, either he'll move up or he'll fight Crawford.
Right.
So what do you, if you could kind of envision it, how do you see his 2023 mapping out? Do you think it's going to be like a Keith Thurman and then a Crawford? Do you think it's going to be automatically Crawford? Do you think it's going to be Keith and he moves up, or he just moves up automatically?
I think it's going to be Keith, and then I can see him moving up. I've been saying for a long time that I honestly expect Terrence and Keith and Errol to fight at 154 pounds. I don't think that they're going to fight at 147.
Is it less meaningful, though? Because it's not for undisputed now.
The belts don't matter.
Yo, not even undisputed?
No disrespect, but the belts don't matter.
For all of them, no.
There's history there. Everybody's looking at the history. But the true history is that you got two dogs, and that dog beat that dog. Not, we got two dogs, and that dog has all the belts. That's not the real, that's not what it truly is. But that's what everybody sees and everybody knows, you know? I'm gonna keep it 100. I had no clue what undisputed even meant, because it didn't mean anything to me. What it meant to me was to have the fights that I had, fight the guys that I fought, be in the ring with those guys, do something great that people will remember forever.
In your honest view, because I know you remember.
Hey, think about it like this. When you watch a fight, if you talk about Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, let's say they fight, and let's say somebody goes years later to watch that fight and they're turning it on. They're not gonna talk about the belts being in the ring. They're gonna say that guy was this, and this. That guy was that, and that. And before the fight happened, we thought this. And before the fight happened, watch this. Nobody's gonna say, oh yeah, and remember, it's for all the belts. That's not a part of the narrative. They're making it a part of the narrative.
Fair enough, but let me ask you this. I know, because when you was already established in a work.
So this is where all of this is coming from. Let me give you my thoughts on this whole situation. Shawn Porter sounds like a casual. It sounds like he's catering to the casuals. It sounds like he's adjusting to the mindset of business. Shawn Porter, being as respected as he is, and for fighting the guys that he fought, to hear him say that, it's definitely a thing of, okay, I'm no longer fighting. I'm watching things unfold. I know a lot of things that happen in boxing that, whether people like it or not, I understand how things happen. I could basically respect the fact of him saying he doesn't think that Boots Ennis is not what Errol wants. Well, I think everybody knows that, and it's also not what Crawford wants. And that's what you call high risk, low reward financially, right? Because that's not seen as a big money fight. That's not seen as a mega fight. And especially now, after Boots just dominated this guy for 12 rounds, but people are saying, oh, he was exposed, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. So they're saying he's not ready. So, you know, the fight is not something that people are they're not receiving this fight, the thought of this fight, as if it's like Boots is ready, like he's worthy. I'm not tripping off of what I saw, okay? I might touch on that, I might not. First off, I spoke on this, but I wasn't sure of where this was coming from, but now I know. Let me say, Shawn Porter saying the belts doesn't matter. We heard Raleigh say that. We heard Ryan Garcia say that. What's funny is the hypocrisy as well. See, because Raleigh was talking about it doesn't matter. Both of them, him and Ryan both. It's not about the belts. It's not about any of that. Belts don't mean nothing. It's about how many Instagram followers you have, how many Twitter followers, YouTube. This is Raleigh's words, right? So when he said that, think about it. Well, when he went to fight Tank Davis, Tank's regular, WBC belt was on the line, right? That mindset of not caring about having a belt, not wanting to be a champion. Shawn Porter, how could you say that when you yourself fought for a title? You were trying to win titles. You never was undisputed. So you don't know that feeling, and you didn't have that mindset. Okay, that has nothing to do with what the fans want and what boxing needs. See, there's a difference with understanding the boxing model has changed. The mindset has changed. We have something called restore order, which is what needs to happen. See, because to hear Shawn Porter say this, I can't say I'm shocked because people are people, but definitely he doesn't sound like a guy. If you didn't know Shawn Porter, you'd think he was some casual guy that just basically don't really know nothing about boxing and he just comes along and he's talking. One of these YouTubers, right? Shawn Porter, think about this. I said this in the last video I made about this. Yes, there's a history between the two of them of saying they're fighting, then they're not fighting. Okay? And people have wanted to see this fight, but wait. People have been talking the same thing about Errol Spence and Crawford versus Keith Thurman. We haven't got that fight. Let me tell you, you fight at 154 for no title. The prestige is not there. This is for undisputed. You said if, the NFL, boxing don't have that, right? Because you could look at the schedules of the team that you want to go and support, or whatever different games you want to go see. You know when it's coming, right? They have a schedule. You don't know when Errol Spence is going to fight Boots Ennis. Well, if titles don't mean anything, and you being that you use the NFL or the NBA as an example to compare them to, well, that would be like, imagine you have the AFC versus the NFC, right? They go to their championship games and they're in the division. So let's say you got the Cowboys and the Steelers, right? And so, do you think that the Cowboys or the Steelers would say, listen, the Super Bowl winning, that don't mean nothing. I mean, we won the NFC championship, and that's all that matters to me. You know, years from now, nobody's going to look and think, well, the Cowboys were multi-time Super Bowl champions. They're just going to look at, oh, they beat the Steelers. No. We're not talking about regular season. We're talking about the Super Bowl. The two best teams in the league meet up that day. So, basically, you talking about history. Well, history is not just about a particular fight that you've had, and people are going to look back and say, who won? They don't care about the belts. No. BS. This is exactly why when you talk about Manny Pacquiao, what do you say? 8 division world champion. Thomas Hearns, 6 division world champion or whatever. Roy Jones, Raylan. This is why you mention this. Mayweather, multi-time champion. How many weight classes? No, it's a part of their resume. So I don't know what the hell Shawn Porter's talking about even saying that. And to even say that belts don't matter and that you didn't even know what undisputed was, all you cared about was doing something great that people remember forever, and that you'll go in there and fight. Wait, Shawn Porter, you was begging Floyd Mayweather to fight you. And then he says it in this video. And then the guy that's doing the interview, when he brought up the whole, how Keith Thurman was doing this to Errol Spence, is like the same thing. Yeah. Then he says that his dad told him, you're not going to get the Floyd fight because Floyd Mayweather is in a whole different financial bracket, and what he has, you're not going to get that. And he understood it. Now, remember when I said these guys wasn't calling Errol Spence out? Yeah. Spence did not have a belt. Spence was up and coming. They saw the damage that he was doing to people, and they know this guy's a threat. He said he understood that. Same with Keith Thurman. Do you guys remember when Keith Thurman used to crash Zab Judah's press conferences and chase him around and call him out constantly, doing the whole David Haye following Klitschko around, or the whole Shannon Briggs let's go chant following Klitschko around as well, right? He never got that fight. Keith Thurman, after he finally became champ and he was considered the best in the division, right? Look at where Keith Thurman is right now. So even if Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, if they were, either one of them was to fight Keith Thurman, then go to 154. What are you fighting Keith Thurman for now? He has no belt. It would just be, I fought for Errol Spence. He'd be able to say he fought Danny Garcia, beat him. He fought Shawn Porter, beat him. He could say he beat, Ugas, because Ugas basically, he had a belt, beat him. I beat Keith Thurman. He could say that. Now, for Terrence Crawford, he could say I beat Keith Thurman and beat Shawn Porter. But for what reason would they not fight at 147? What sense would it make for them to fight at 154? For what? And to say that the belts don't mean anything. Well, the belts represent you as a champion, right? Now, I don't understand how a guy like Shawn Porter even accepts that. And that's the point that's part of what's wrong with people now. Not just in boxing, just in general in life. Is that things that are important, they're saying is not important. That's why you got guys that don't care about defending their belts, that don't care about being undisputed. They're okay with holding on to they basically look at Ryan Garcia. He has sponsors outside of boxing. He's making money without being a world champion. So it's no urgency. Look at Jamal Charlo. You don't think that Jamal Charlo have people around him saying the same things that we're saying? Jamal, why don't you go out there and unify the division like your brother? Simple. Why don't you do that? Why don't you go for that? Stop waiting on damn Canelo. Charlo hasn't fought since 2021. This dude is sitting back waiting for what? There's no urgency. That's why you got these guys who they don't care. If they're seeing millions of dollars already without fighting the A-list guys, yeah, we fought the B-list and the C-list. We're not fighting A-list, right? They're okay with that. They're okay. As for Shawn Porter, when you talking greatest of all time, since he mentioned when people look at history and they look at who fought who, Shawn, you lost to Errol Spence. You lost to Keith Thurman. You lost to Kell Brook. You can say that you fought these guys. You lost to Terrence Crawford. This is what I'm saying. So when they look back at you, they'll say, well, he was never undisputed. They will tell you what you wasn't and what you were. Yes, the belts do mean something. No, they don't mean anything in the sense that you have too many people that have the business mind of it's all about who sells. We don't care if you're a champion or not. It does mean, that doesn't mean anything. All these extra belts that you have. What's a regular champion? A diamond champ? No. Any belt that you don't need to be undisputed don't mean nothing as far as I'm concerned. And in fact, it's not even bargaining chips anymore. Because basically, even being number one contender, people are getting shafted. But for him to say what he's saying is like, Shawn, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like, what do you mean the belts don't mean anything? Being undisputed doesn't mean anything. Well, when you give people accolades for what they did, no, it's not just about the fight that they had. It's a story behind everything. You can take a guy like Muhammad Ali. It's not just him being the first three-time world heavyweight champion. Look at his story around his life, what he went through. The time that he was here in that ring, the 3.5 years that were taken away from him before he came back. All of those things, when you sit and watch, people get intrigued by this because it's like, damn, I didn't know that this was going on and that was going on. Oh, and you know, oh, Ali was a 3-time world champion. Okay, damn, all right. What do you mean? So every other part of this man's history and his story, him being a 3-time world champion doesn't mean anything? Nah, Shawn, you tripping. You are tripping. I liked Shawn Porter as a fighter. Shawn Porter came to fight. But this crap that he's saying right now, like, Shawn, where are you getting this from? That's the wrong mentality. You got a guy like Jake Paul sitting there with these made-up fake belts he has, and he's walking around here saying, hey, you know, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm this and I'm that. Yet you find a way to try to give him praise for the business side of things. For him fighting guys that's past their prime, over the hill, and not even fighting guys close to his age. He makes sure he has an advantage one way or another, and you guys, you support his business savvy. Yeah, him and his brother are smart business-wise, but they want to give the impression that they are as good as a Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence or Canelo or an Anthony Joshua for that matter. They want to give that false narrative that they are that good. So basically, no, belts won't mean nothing when you have guys that could just get up off of a computer, get into a gym, and then all of a sudden go fight a bunch of journeymen. And then people are walking around here even say Canelo's name in the same breath as a Jake Paul. as if this is an intriguing fight. Because this is what you're seeing. And it's like, oh, well, out with the old, in with the new. This is the new way of thinking. If you guys saw the last video I made, that little comedy skit I put in there, that's exactly what that represented. Every little stupid reason for a fight to not happen now, it won't happen. There's no more prestige. Nobody cares. You know, not to say nobody. Not enough people care. Let me say it that way. And basically, even for what Shawn Porter is saying, well, what do you think Errol Spence had those 3 belts for? And now that one piece of the puzzle that's missing with Terrence Crawford. If you don't think that undisputed means anything, or being a champion, well, if undisputed doesn't mean anything, being a champion, period, don't mean anything. And I've yet to meet anybody or hear any fighter with any common sense say, hey, I don't care if I get paid big money or not. I don't care if I win a championship or not. I just want to get in the ring and fight. So years from now, people can look back and say, hey, man, he fought. There's a guy who had 108 damn wins against a bunch of nobodies. I did a video about him. Forgot his damn name, but that guy had all those fights. Nobody's talking about this guy. Right? Why? Because the level of competition he fought, he didn't make the cut of, hey, he's worthy to be talked about by the masses. The NBA has the NBA Finals. Nobody's going to, like I said, nobody's going to play the champion. So basically, like, the playoffs is what's important. We just don't want to win the NBA Finals because all people going to remember is what happened on the court. They don't care that we won the finals. No. Boxing, you are a champion. You want to know, let me say this. I've accomplished a lot of things in my life that I'm very proud of. Okay? I earned myself 3 titles. You want to know something, though? And I don't speak about things because, it's, you know, I don't need to live in the past. I don't need to live in... Listen, my life right now, I have a lot going on in ways and things. And I'm into my family. And I'm about peace. I'm about traveling. I'm about just enjoying life. Keeping physically fit. Keeping sharp. Everything. Keeping my mind right. Being careful what I put in my body. All that kind of stuff. But I'm enjoying life. You know, for me, when people talk about legacy, ain't about me winning 3 titles. People always, how do you want to be remembered? I tell people it don't matter about me going on stage doing music. It doesn't matter about me getting in the ring fighting. It doesn't matter about me bodybuilding at one point. None of that stuff. How I want to be remembered, it really doesn't matter. It's not what I want a person to think about me. But if I could have that say, he was a great father, a great husband, and just a great family man that loved people and did a lot for people and never wanted nothing in return. I don't care about what I did in the ring. I don't care about what I did on them stages. I don't care about none of that. Those were things I did to enjoy. Those things that I never did any of it for the money. It was the thrill of competition. You understand what I mean? The thrill of competition. I don't care about being in the public eye. I'm not a superficial person. But for any fighter that comes in this game that work their ass off, they want to get those big paydays. You show me where you have a bunch of fighters walking. Show me where fighters who walk right here making Canelo and Anthony Joshua type money and they don't have championship belts. They've never held a title. That's not happening. And as far as what people do in the ring, nobody's going to remember the belts. That's bullshit, Shawn. And you definitely should know better than that. Nobody's going to remember the belts. Right now, like I said, bring up Pacquiao's name. Bring up anybody's name who left their mark in boxing. One of the first things people want to know, how many titles did that person win? How many title defenses did they have? There's always records in boxing that somebody want to try to break. Like everybody wanted to know was Floyd going to go for 50-0, right? And Floyd, you know, and yeah. Everybody want to know who held the most records, the most titles, who won titles in more divisions, who won more NBA titles. Yeah. This is that type of thing, man. You bring up Tom Brady's name. What do they talk about? How many championships he's won? How many championship, in the Super Bowls that he's been to? That's what people do. I don't know where the hell Shawn Head is with this nonsense about it's not about undisputed. It doesn't matter. Titles don't mean nothing. Man, please. They don't mean something. I'm going to tell you what I see. You see, like, for example, take Ryan and Tank. They've been saying each other's names for some years now. People get tired of hearing this back and forth. Tank just fought, say he wants Ryan next. Tank had a lot of going on in his personal life and things like that. And so, okay, he made the adjustments. He won his last fight. So it's like, okay, cool. Him and Ryan. People are saying it makes more sense financially than him versus Haney. Isn't that ironic that the undisputed champion in the division is the most avoided, right? You want to know why these guys are avoiding him? Why they're not calling his name out? Because they know, unlike the fanboys who sit up there talk about Devin Haney's pillow-fisted and all this, and you still by now don't realize he is a technician in that ring, and he knows how to win. So what you're saying is Ryan Garcia is the biggest fight financially. Skill-wise, I believe Haney will beat the shit out of Ryan Garcia. Skill-wise, I think Haney will beat all those guys at 135. Tank has the power. Tank also has the boxing skill and technique to go in there. And I don't, look. I think they're the two best at 135. Plain and simple. Tank and Haney. They both, what I'm saying, for Ryan, for Tank, notice you never heard him say Ryan is the best fighter out there next to himself. He's saying it's the best fight, the biggest fight financially. So what you saying is fighting Haney is a step backwards. So fighting for undisputed means nothing. It's more prestige beating the guy that nobody, most people don't think Ryan Garcia got a chance to beat Tank. Okay, real talk. We all know most people think Tank is going to knock Ryan out. You talking about business sense. Now, let's talk about on a competitive level. You have a lot of people now that's learned, nah, Haney can fucking box, man. He might outbox Tank. And you also have people that think Tank will knock him out. So why would you take a step backwards? Why not go after Haney first, then give Ryan a title shot, since that's the case? If he's right, but he knows he's not saying Ryan's the best fighter. He's saying business-wise. The reason why these guys are not quick to chase Haney is because they know Haney can box. And they can sit there and say he's boring, he's pillow-fisted, all this bullshit. It's because they know, no matter what they say, Haney is that damn good. And for you to even say belts don't mean anything, you're catering to these YouTubers, to these casuals that don't know a goddamn thing about boxing, and people shitting on the history. So when you sit and talk about the Jack Johnsons and the Marcianos, the Jersey Joe Walcotts, all these different people, the Joe Lewises, the Cassius Clays, the Joe Frazier's, the George Foremans. When you sit up and say belts don't mean anything, they meant something to those people, and they mean something to some people now. And as a sport, you guys have been catering to the entertainment side of shit. And that's sad. And that's why boxing is so fucked up as it is. You fucking think that an MMA fighter is going to go into the UFC and say, oh, being a champion don't mean nothing. I just want a payday. No, you don't get those paydays without earning that shit. And again, show me a non-title holding guy who's getting paid $32, $33 million a fight. And if he is, then that means he's a superstar and was a champion. I guarantee you Ryan ain't making close to that. But he's a millionaire. He's making his money. So, just saying, where these guys want to be, that's the mentality that's helping the sport stay fucked up. And I believe Shawn realizes that's where people's heads are. That's the new wave. That's the new wave that came in. And he's riding that wave and catering. Because I don't understand, even for him to say, I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I didn't even know what undisputed meant. So what? So what? Boxing, you're not the beginner or end all of boxing. Nobody is. There was a beginning. Somebody was here to be a part of it. It's still going. And you know what? The money makers, the promoters and all these people who are just chasing the money, that's how fighters' minds have been groomed. I've been saying this stuff for years. Now you see it's having an effect on Shawn. Because Shawn is sitting here talking like someone who doesn't know boxing. Now, if he pointed this out like this is what's happening, like I agree with what he was saying as far as he don't think the fight is realistic because Spence ain't looking for that because it's high risk and low reward. I get it. But as far as him saying it's them fighting at 150 for what? As I stated in the last video, why in the hell would these guys say, hey man, let's wait till we both have no title, then fight each other? Less prestige, you know, just say we had the fight. Who the fuck you think's gonna, nothing's gonna be remembered forever. I mean, the best thing is, yeah, you can go back and look at video and look at things that you never knew happened or fights that you may have missed and things like that. But regardless, you're gone. New wave, new time. There was a time you couldn't tell nobody Ray Robinson wasn't the greatest ever. As time goes on, generations of people die. Film alone doesn't always change a person's mind. Ray Robinson's name barely even come up. There was a time people was like Sugar Ray was the best ever. Roy Jones, Mike Tyson. There's always going to be a time where people are sticking to people from their generation. Oh, Kyrie Irving's better than Michael Jordan. LeBron's better than Michael Jordan. This guy, everybody, guys that never even been to a freaking championship game is better than Michael Jordan. Guys, it's crazy that people say things and they don't realize the power of words. When Rolly Romero's first said that, I remember I looked at him and I said, yeah, okay, so then that's no wonder why your career is the way it is. You don't care about being a champion. You're just in this sport and you think that talking shit is entertaining and that's going to keep you in the spotlight. What have you actually done in the ring that anybody cares about? And the most memorable thing that you've done in the ring was doing the stinky leg after you got dropped by Tank Davis. Shawn Porter. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, bro. But being undisputed, being the best in your division, or being considered the best in the world, if that doesn't mean anything to you, well, it's no wonder your career stopped so short then. Because at the end of the day, nobody who wants to be a champion, nobody who wants to be great, and yeah, you had fighters that were considered great that never was a world champion. Yeah, who's talking about them years and years later? It takes someone like myself, takes another historian to dig up something and say, hey, let's talk about this guy. Why? Because nobody's talking about them. And nothing lasts forever, regardless. When you're gone, you're gone. Your time is here for a short while, then you out of here. Somebody else is getting cheers and praise. It doesn't matter. And if you can sit up here and say that titles don't mean anything and being undisputed doesn't mean anything, but say it as if that's just the way it is and you're accepting of it, now imagine a couple more million people thinking just like you. This is one of the reasons boxing is in a mess like it is. I'm proud of things that I accomplished and things that I did. You know, and those things nobody can take away from you. And just to give you a simple example of something, right? If you was to compare two fighters, and one they're saying, well, just say, for example, if someone said Adrian Broner was better than Sugar Ray Leonard, they're going to say, how many titles did Adrian Broner win? What was his record? That's the first questions they're going to ask. What was his record? How many titles he won? How many weight class? All those are the first things people are going to say. What do they call Marvin Hagler? One of the greatest of all time, and definitely the greatest middleweight of all time. The majority. The majority. And that's funny, right? Because, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson spent the majority of his career at middleweight. So when they say that, it's like, so how are you saying Sugar Ray is the greatest of all time? Well, I'm saying Marvin was the greatest middleweight of all time. So what you saying? If he's the greatest middleweight, and Sugar Ray Robinson spent the majority of his career at middleweight, who are you saying you think would beat who? Then it's, stutter. My point is what? They start looking at the accolades. How many titles somebody won. How, you know, it's like, for example, Sugar Ray Robinson went up in weight to try to fight at 175. And he lost the fight. He had to quit in the 13th round. Oh, it was too hot under the lights. I mean, he gave it his all. Yeah, his opponent was under them same lights. He didn't use real smart technique. He didn't use smart strategy. He was just going for the knockout. Burnt himself out. His shots wasn't even moving this guy. So we talk about ring IQ, boxing IQ, patience, discipline, all of this stuff, it means something. Somebody else can look and say, yeah, well, Roy Jones went to the light heavyweight, went all up to heavyweight. Ray Robinson couldn't do it. He went to light heavyweight, had one fight, got beat. You understand what I'm saying? Accolades. They compare accolades. Now, you can win a certain amount of titles. You can win more titles than a person. That don't mean that you would beat that person, though, even though you've won more titles than them. But those things come up. They compare. When they're comparing LeBron to Michael Jordan, what are they comparing? Who beat a game? How many games somebody won? No, they're comparing the stats. 3-peat, disappear for 2 years, come back, 3-peat. You understand? They're comparing who did what. Example, Michael Jordan played, what, 13 seasons or something like that? LeBron 20 or something like that? So my thing is, stats that Michael Jordan put up even before he came back at an old age with the Wizards. Yeah, you guys may have played longer than him and you still haven't caught up with his stats overall. So if I could do something in 10 years and it took you 20 to catch some of my stats, and still there's stats you ain't even close to catching, but people are saying you're better than me. Does that make any sense? It's just an opinion, right? But does that make any sense? You're better than him, but it took you 20 years to do something that it took him 10 to do. Stats, accomplishments, accolades. So at the end of the fight, when they hold those trophies up, you think that don't mean anything? When they win them NBA titles and they got them rings, you think those rings don't mean anything? My other two babies are upstairs. All right? But when you win shit, you remember it. Fuck everybody else. You remember it. You feel good. This right here is an accomplishment. But it's not putting food on my table. It's not feeding my family. You understand what I'm saying? This is something I always remember. But at the end of the day, you understand what I'm saying? And a competitive sport and what you accomplish, that's what comes up. Yes, undisputed. So for somebody to make the assumption that two guys fighting for no belt doesn't mean anything, it loses no prestige, when that fight could have been for undisputed. Well, if that's the case too, Shawn, it's like this. Everybody wanted to see Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. And what was the fear that people had for both guys? one of them might fuck around and lose. And if they lose, it's going to hurt the fight. It's not going to have the same steam. Anthony Joshua got beat by Ruiz when he came back and won against, in the rematch, he became two-time unified. Now the interest was back. But then he came across Usyk. Wilder came across Fury. That fight is just like, well, it needs to happen because they're from the same era. But it doesn't have the same, interest that it once had. Floyd and Pacquiao. Pacquiao already had 3 losses by the time he came to fight Floyd. Actually, he had 4 by the time he got to Floyd because Manuel Marquez knocked him out. And it was like, damn, Pacquiao, you just messed up the money fight. He came back, and it looked like the same Pacquiao. Was still letting his hands go. Like a lot of fighters, when they get knocked out, they get scared to let their hands go. Zab Judah, Adrian Broner, and they get to that point where instead of them realizing what they did wrong, they don't trust their own skill. They don't trust their ability to be able to overcome. So they go in there being overly cautious. Pacquiao was still the same Pacquiao. So the intrigue was back in there. And that fight made way more money then than it would have made earlier. It wasn't for undisputed, but they both were champions. And at the end of the day, it was one of these things where they had already accomplished a lot to where they were seen as the 2 very best fighters in the sport. Pound for pound. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are both still undefeated. And they both have something the other should want. So how do you go to a whole different weight class? And this makes sense. How? So you telling me that basically, what would be the purpose of going to 154 other than just, well, I feel more comfortable at this weight? Because if he does what Shawn Porter said, Crawford or Spence, is fight Keith Thurman, beat him, and then go up. So you don't care about being undisputed at that point? Well, what's going to happen if Terence Crawford go to 154? I repeat, unless something happens between Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo, they're not going to fight each other. So is Terence Crawford going to go up there and just say, well, I'll just go up there and just fight, but I don't care if I win the title or not because I was undisputed at 140? And because, I had one belt at 147? Now you go to 154, you have no belts. Who the hell comes into a sport not wanting to be champion? So is that the mindset fighters have now? Yo, you know what? I got to get these Instagram, these Twitter numbers up so I can be popular and become a millionaire. I don't care about no belt. The love, the passion, the soul of boxing, people don't care about that. And for those who still do, we are greatly outnumbered, and you are in the position of, this is why way more people know Jake Paul than the Terence Crawford, and a whole lot of other fucking fighters. So, anyway, talk to me in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.